Net. We are headed into a huge weekend of college football and, of course, Orioles baseball and, of course, the Ravens getting ready for the Buffalo Bills next weekend here. But college football rules it. We've talked a lot about the Terps this week and their prospects. But we're going to go around college football now with one of our defending champions. We welcome Aaron Torres, college hoops and football analyst at FoxSports.com, back onto the program. Week one, here we go, man. Let the games begin on Saturday, correct, Aaron?
Yeah, Nestor, speaking of let the games begin, I got to say, man, it's been a long time. I thought you lost my phone number. I don't feel like a defending champ right now.
We didn't play any games. We didn't miss anything. We haven't missed anything. They stopped playing basketball like in April, and nothing's happened yet. But that's going to change on Thursday night, I know.
You mean you didn't want to talk satellite cams for 4 straight months? That wasn't in your wheelhouse?
You know what? I was going to call you last week and talk about that Cal whatever game was over in Sydney, Australia that I caught at midnight last weekend. But I'm like, my wife's like, they're playing football already? I'm like, yeah, they're playing in Sydney, Australia as well. But this week it's kind of weird with a lot of these big site, big games. We're playing the Saints this week down in New Orleans in preseason, and everybody down there is all gassed up about this LSU game. I know anybody that's in the Dallas area, they got a huge football game there at Jerry's World. Just a big weekend all the way around.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I've said this throughout the last probably month or so, Nestor, is, every year we always have 2 or 3 or 4 good games. We always say, oh, this is the best opening weekend ever, and it's all hyperbolic, and we always say the same thing. This year really feels like it, though. I mean, you're talking 5, 6, 7 games that are not only huge marquee games, but in the case of at least 2, 3, 4 of them, really could have long-term national championship implications. The thing that makes college football so unique, I would argue, the greatest sport, is because the regular season every single week matters. So whether you look at Ole Miss, Florida State on Labor Day night, Georgia, North Carolina, USC, Alabama, you mentioned LSU, Wisconsin, there's other ones that I'm missing, Auburn, Clemson, they all have meaning. You can't take a week off. You can't take a night off. You lose this weekend, your season could be over before it really even begins.
Well, everyone expects USC, and they expect USC to be a good team this year. Everyone expects them to be 0-1 on Saturday night, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, the problem with USC specifically is I think that they have the talent of a national championship contender. I actually think they're a lot better than people realize, but their schedule is brutal. Just by the end of this month of coming September, they play Alabama on a neutral field. They play at Stanford and at Utah, 3 of the most physical teams in the country, 2 or 3 of the most talented teams in the country. So in the case of USC, their season is kind of might very well be over before it begins. The crazy thing with them is, like I said, they've recruited really well and have a lot of talent, but just the scheduling gods were not in their favor, not only with the out-of-conference stuff that they can control, but in conference, the Pac-12 offices did them no favors either.
Whole state of Alabama realizes that it's like a national holiday, right? Because Auburn's playing an hour later against Clemson. And, the one thing we're definitely going to see on Saturday are these Heisman candidates all over the place.
Yeah, 100%. And, it's going to be the obvious ones like a Deshaun Watson, like a Baker Mayfield at Oklahoma playing Houston, but it's going to be other guys too. And, the great thing about the Heisman is now I think this is a year where kind of one of the big names, be it a Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, Mayfield, Watson, all those guys, I think one of them is going to win it. But the great thing about the Heisman is most years a guy pretty much comes out of nowhere and throws himself in contention. A couple years ago we saw it with Jameis Winston. Opening night he was nearly perfect against Pittsburgh on Labor Day. You go through last year, Baker Mayfield finishing, I believe, 4th overall. J.T. Barrett a couple years ago finishing 5th. So to me, that's the fun part of the Heisman. It's not the Christian McCaffreys, the Leonard Fournettes, as much as I enjoy watching them. It's who's going to emerge. We've seen in the past, as I mentioned, Cam Newton coming out of nowhere, Robert Griffin III, Johnny Manziel, certainly, and I'm curious to see who that guy might be this year.
We always know the Oklahoma-Texas game is a big one, but how about Oklahoma going to Houston? That's a noon kickoff on Saturday. A lot of people with a lot of love for Houston in that program last year, and they kind of got screwed in the early going, and we talk about these teams that can or can't win a national championship. Some might not be allowed to play in the Final Four. This would be a great stride for Houston to kick their season off. We talk one of these teams going to be 0-1 on Saturday.
It's incredible. Yeah, no, and Houston, for people who don't know, look, this is no gimmicky program. First of all, they don't certainly have the depth of an Oklahoma or Texas or even a Baylor or TCU in terms of the overall body of work, but they have frontline players that can play with anybody. Greg Ward Jr. is an All-American candidate at quarterback. They have transfer. The ironic thing about them is they've really played the transfer market well, have a couple guys that were at Texas, a couple guys that were at other Big 12 programs that are going to play meaningful snaps for them. So it's not as if they don't have the talent. And you brought up the point, Nestor, for Houston, their whole season really rides on this week 1 game against Oklahoma. They win this, all of a sudden you're now looking at a scenario where they have thrown themselves in the thick of the playoff race before the playoff race has really even begun. Obviously, they're a team that would have to win every single game on their schedule, but playing Oklahoma week 1, playing Louisville late in the season, if they win both of those games, they will be every bit in the discussion. It's obviously going to depend on how other teams and other conferences play, but this is a huge weekend for Houston. You talk about something that could shake college football up within a few hours of that first Saturday. Houston beating Oklahoma would certainly qualify as that.
He is Aaron Torres. He covers college football at FoxSports.com, and you can follow his journey out on Twitter as well as his picture with the Heisman Trophy at Aaron_Torres. That's Torres as well. Last but not least for you, two questions for you. One, who's going to win the national championship?
I'm back and forth. I have Florida State and LSU in the national championship game. My hunch is I think Florida State might have the best defense in college football. That includes Alabama. LSU, though, Nestor, I felt like this since really last November. I think they're playing for something bigger than just this season. They're playing for Les Miles' job. I mean, we forget this now, but Les Miles was 1 quarter away from being fired during that Texas A&M game, or immediately following that Texas A&M game. His players carried him off the field because they thought it was going to be his last game, okay? So people forget that.
I read the scrolls, believe me. I read the tweets, yes.
I tweet about it a lot because it cannot be undervalued. And so you have, by the way, a team that has national championship talent. You have 2, 3, 4, 5 guys on that roster that could have gone pro. In the case of a couple of them, could have been first-round draft picks. They came back, and I think it's because they realized that there is something really big at stake here. I just think that the combination of talent, of coaching, and of just the bigger picture stuff, that is why I have LSU, and I think they'll play Florida State for the title.
Who's your favorite team to watch this year, a team that might be on the come? And don't say Maryland.
Definitely Maryland, DJ Durkin. No, I mean, look, it's a tough question to ask. I mean, I'm more of an individual players guy, like Leonard Fournette. Every time LSU has the ball, I'm watching. Christian McCaffrey, certainly, obviously, that goes without saying. I'm trying to think of a team. A team that'll be really interesting is Texas, because Texas has a lot of really young personnel. They might be starting a true freshman at quarterback. And I'm just looking at them like they're really a year away from being a real contender, not just in the Big 12, but in the national championship race if they can get the quarterback situation figured out. So I think it'll be interesting, and I think it starts in week 1 when they play Notre Dame this Sunday night.
Aaron, I'll be following you out on Twitter. He is Aaron_Torres, college football at FoxSports.com. You can find me in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault anytime, anywhere, from anywhere in the world, including Germany, as well as our morning newspaper is going to hit your email inbox at 7 a.m. That's brought to you by Planet Fitness. And we will be texting out news here throughout the holiday. The Ravens are going to be cutting. The Orioles are going to be adding. I promise you, get on the WNST text service. It's free and easy and powered up by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. I'm Nestor. This is WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports. Great having you on, Aaron. I appreciate it, my brother.
It is good to be back. You have safe